Welcome to Spreading the Floor with your hosts, Jacob Cooperman and Nigel Petty Fernandez. Your go-to podcast for basketball's forecast.
Welcome to Spreading the Floor, presented by ATB News. The intro song was made by Joshua Degoto. Big shout out to him. We actually have a sponsor today, guys. Now, obviously, we're not in the studio, and that kind of sucks. We'll get into that in a second. But I did want to show you our sponsor and the way you can get 20% off on their website using our special code. So the website is https://shot.ballinthesix.com/discount/STFNBA. And you're going to use that STFNBA all in caps to get yourself some nice clothing off of the Ball in the Six website. 20% off. Guys, I wouldn't send you anywhere where I didn't think that they would make some quality clothing. I know the guy that runs it. He's a very solid guy, you know. And if you guys want to get like swagged out and you know basketball culture, style culture, kind of like Nigel come and dripped out at every single recording we do, go check them out. And listen, like I said, I wouldn't send you to the wrong place. So go check them out. And hey, listen, if you guys make a purchase there, we get a cut of the dough. That means better microphones. That means better quality and all that good stuff. But nonetheless, let's get into the episode. We have a lot to discuss. A lot has gone down since we were last in the booth. So, but I guess we should start off with why we're on Zoom, right? Like, I feel like that's a good way to start it off.
That's right. I guess I'll take over from here. So basically, I am in my own bubble. I'm quarantining myself, because unfortunately someone who I came in contact with had a little fever. We don't know whether it's COVID or not, but I feel all right. It's been a couple days. I'm just, taking the proper precautions in these troubling times. So we're going to make the best of the situation, and by next week we should be back in the studio.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, no. So I'd already tried previously to record a solo session, but I figured it better for me and Nigel to kind of hop on here and just, because you can't really replicate the chemistry that me and Nigel have on mic, even over Zoom. It's just incomparable. And that's part of the reason why our podcast, in my opinion, is so good. Anyway, you know what? We got a lot to get into, Nigel. So I guess I'll give the rundown for everyone listening. We have our updated playoff predictions, what's happened since the last week. Obviously, Nick Nurse, Coach of the Year. We've got the draft lottery, what each team in the top, let's say 5, will do with their draft picks. Playoff Paul George, kind of, I guess, proving to be less of a rumor and more of less of an urban myth and more of a reality. We have Tobias Harris injury. He's doing okay. We have Luka's game winner. Pretty electric. I know you saw that. Pretty crazy. I mean, that left me speechless while I was watching it on the TV. We have Kobe's birthday the other day. Popovic as the Nets head coach, what that means for their future. And then I figured we could talk about the 76ers head coach being fired and what that means for their future as well. Where did you want to start, Nigel? Do you want to start with our updated playoff predictions? Seems only fair.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good way to start off the episode.
All right, well, so let's see. So we've had so far 2 sweeps. We've had Toronto versus Brooklyn, and we've had the Celtics sweeping the 76ers. We've also have now the Lakers on the verge of winning this series against the Portland Trailblazers. Obviously, now Dame is out of Game 5. I forget the specific injury or why he's not playing, but I know for sure that he is not playing. And as well as that, I believe Utah has Denver on the back foot. They're close to winning the series. I'd have to pull it up. I've been really happy with the way OKC has brought the game or the series tied back 2-2. A lot of people after the first podcast kind of called me a little bit ridiculous for even somewhat guesstimating or even somewhat touching the fact that OKC could be competitive against a team like the Houston Rockets. And it seems like my prediction sort of came right. Harden's been playing great. I will give you that. I will admit that he has been dropping buckets, but I think my initial comment still stands where I say that, you can't have a guy like Harden do it all by himself. You know what I mean? Like he's on a team where he's always being used. It's a high usage team for Harden, and he's not gonna be able to perform 100% of the time. I think that's pretty unrealistic, and I think we've seen now the first two games were not the best for the OKC Thunder. I mean, they didn't play the best. They played hard, but these last few games, they've really been battling back. They've been playing tough defense. Lugens Dortz has been locking Harden down, and they've just been playing fantastic. And I see this as kind of a momentum shift for the series. I'll get into that in a little bit. We could also get into the Mavericks and the Clippers. Luka, obviously, that ties into him pretty well, and also playoff Pete. But I wanted to first get into your updated predictions, where you see this going. What are your thoughts?
Well, what I will say is that I like your prediction about OKC. I thought that it was a bunch of nonsense, a bunch of gabagool, but it turns out it's coming right. Chris Paul has come to play. I was watching that game where he was just, I think it was game 3 or 4, and he was just making those shots, man.
Yeah.
He was, whatever he was putting up was going in. He was running the offense. One thing I do notice about that series, though, which is, dangerous for your prediction, is that the only time that OKC looks like they're able to pull off a win or come up is when the Rockets are playing badly, and that's fine as long as they can continue to stop the Rockets, and try to hold up their offense and stuff. As long as they can get the Rockets to play badly, I think that they will have a chance at this, because I didn't think they had a series chance. But look, the series is tied at 2-2. I love some competitive basketball, so I'm super excited. Obviously, I want to talk about Luka Doncic, but I also want to talk about the Nuggets and the Jazz a little bit too.
Right.
Since we're in the West.
Right.
But I thought this would be. I think the Jazz are just taking over. Donovan Mitchell's not letting up, and I think it's a fun series to watch. But I think Nuggets need to step it up. I mean, they're a respected team, but it just every year it just looks like they're coming out of the first round.
Yeah, no, I think if you want my personal opinion on what happened to the Denver Nuggets after that first game, or even after I think it was the first. It was the first game, because they're down 3-1 right now. I think they showed that they could be dominant, and I've always said that this series would be a 50-50 matchup. I said that on the episode previous to this one. But to me, this is Utah over especially the last couple games. This is Utah really, or last few games, excuse me. This is Utah asserting that they're that team, that they can be the better team than the Nuggets, that they're putting forth offensive effort, that they're putting forth, obviously, what they're known for, defensive effort with Rudy Gobert in the paint. They've just been playing like a solid, cohesive unit. Donovan Mitchell playing out of his mind. Mike Conley as a facilitator playing out of his mind. They have, and I've always said this, they always have a solid team. They're kind of like the Pacers, right? Like the Pacers always have a solid team. Obviously now the Heat are on a fast track to taking out the Sixers. If they haven't already, I'm pretty sure
Pacers.
That was a sweep. Yes. Yeah. So Miami won 4-0. Utah, obviously more of a talented team than the Pacers, but I feel like a lot of people discounted Utah coming into this because obviously Denver has Jokic and Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. I mean, they're also a very talented team, but I think what it comes down to is really that Denver kind of fell asleep at the wheel, and now Utah is stealing the majority of momentum, because you have to also think there's no home or away. You know what I mean? There's no home crowd advantage. There's no home stadium advantage now. It's at a neutral site. So you're going to see some of that stuff where teams can steal momentum really easily. And I think that's just what it is with Utah. I think this series could have gone either way. I think we could have seen the opposite stat line, right? Like Denver being up 3-1 on Utah. It could have gone either way, but it's just which team capitalized earlier on that kind of momentum shift. And Utah shining through now in a way that, kind of impressed me. I'm not going to lie. I didn't think that Utah had it in them. I know we both had predicted that Denver was going to take this series. And I think now, if you want my personal opinion, it's going to probably go towards Utah's way unless Denver can really, really get their heads out of their asses and get something going here late.
Right.
Steal back like a game 5 or something.
Yeah. I agree. The Jazz are just in a 3-1. It's a very commanding lead. And I think that this just goes to further prove that, a cohesive team of all around evenly matched players can only go so far in the playoffs. It's good during the regular season. Like a team like the Nuggets can get up to the third seed in the West, which is impressive. But in the playoffs, I think it just shows that you need the man. You need a superstar. You need someone to give the ball when you need a quick bucket. And I think that this series, this Denver Nuggets team, the last couple of years is just living proof of that. I also want to get into another prediction that I got wrong. I think you got wrong as well. Is the Bucks in Orlando? I mean, we thought that was going to be a sweep. And how surprising was that first game?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think, and I was talking about this too with my other co-host, NBA math, right? We always talk about that on the podcast. You always lose one you should win. You always win one that you should lose. And in the case of series, I thought that, and I'm not going to get off on too much of a tangent here. I thought that the 76ers would steal a game from the Celtics. That wasn't the case. I could see, obviously, I think that the Bucks are going for the, not the sweep, but they're going to finish off the series next game. But there's always going to be that eventuality, no matter how slim of the odds of that occurring, that a team could steal a game or two. Now, we said it was going to be a sweep. I don't think anyone in their right minds would have thought that wasn't a sweep. But, what can you do? Orlando's always been that are they a fringe playoff team even? I don't know, because they had what makes it more interesting is that they didn't have Aaron Gordon in there and one of their other go-to guys, and I'm blanking on his name, so I apologize. But I know they had two notable players out, one of which was Aaron Gordon, and they still managed to steal a game. So that to me is a testament of NBA math. Nonetheless, Bucks finish off the series, advance in the playoffs. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. So,
absolutely.
Are they the favorites in the East? I've been doing a lot of thinking as well. With the way that Toronto played against the Nets, and I know they're the Nets, I don't know. I don't know anymore. I used to think it was a lock for the Bucks in the East. I'm not so sure anymore, especially, now with one of my dark horse picks, the Heat playing out of their mind against the Pacers, locking down TJ Warren. He was going crazy. He was on fire. And then that Heat team steps in there with their versatile offense. Gorgon, how do you say his name? Grogan Dragic?
Yeah, Dragic.
Dragic. Excuse me.
Dragic, like a dragon. Yeah, there you go.
Like a drag race. He's been a terrific one of those guys that I think we talk about point guards like these all the time. Point guards that they have effects beyond the box score, right? Like a win first, and I saw this on Instagram. He's a great win first and more of a pass first and team first type of point guard. And I think it's a great fit for the team like the Miami Heat that has, again, that veteran presence in Jimmy. God, why am I blanking on this guy's name? Jimmy Buckets, Jimmy Butler. Jeez.
Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, a veteran presence with a guy like Jimmy Butler there, Tyler Herro, Kendrick Nunn, all great emerging rookies. Derrick Jones Jr., all these guys. I mean, just who do you want to go to? I don't think it's going to be that easy for the Bucks as I thought it was going to be at the beginning of the season or even coming into the bubble season games.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's super ironic actually that every team in the East either swept or got swept except for the Bucks. And they're the number 1 seed. They're playing the number 8 seed. And I think that goes to show. And I think you're right. I still see the Bucks coming out of the East. I honestly don't think there's any way around that personally still. But I do think that they're going to give the Bucks a run for their money. At first, when the playoffs first started, I thought that the Bucks were just going to fly through, maybe lose 2 games max the entire playoffs. But I'm not only saying this because they lost a game to the Magic, because I don't think that's as big of a deal as like Stephen A. Smith is making it.
Right.
But I'm looking at the other teams in the East and how they're playing. Like you said, Toronto playing super well. Celtics, which is my favorite, which is the team I really want to see go. And like you said, the Heat, and they're going to play the Heat next. I say the Heat pull 2 games on them in the second round. And I think this Celtics versus Toronto series, that's going to be a good series.
Oh yeah,
that's going to be a very good series. And it looks like just these teams in the East are just flying by. They're gonna have a lot of rest in between these different series, whereas the West is just like they're all getting a run for their money. I mean,
Right.
Portland, Damian Lillard came back and shocked LeBron in game one. I mean,
Yeah.
of course, LeBron came back in game two and scored 38 points, 30, 35. I think it was 38, and AD had like 32 or something like that. Something crazy like that. But I think that this is like the East definitely has its big dogs, and it is stifling. It's crazy how much of a difference there are between the good and the bad playoff teams in the East. And I'm excited. I feel like a kid again. I think what the thing is that like the Raptors, the Celtics, the Heat, they were just they spent so many years just being beat by LeBron in the East that finally is the second year he's gone, and they're all fighting, they're all clawing at a chance to get to the EFC.
To get beat by LeBron again? No.
I mean, you know what? I wouldn't be upset. I mean, imagine if we got a Lakers versus Celtics rivalry finals match. I mean, that'd be fun, man.
That'd be a kind of like a throwback to 2008.
Yeah. That was the last time that happened was it was 2010, I think, the last time.
2000, yeah, you're right. Excuse me.
2010. So it'd be a decade.
Yeah.
10 years since the last Lakers versus Celtics finals. And you know what? I think the NBA is better when the Lakers versus Celtics their rivalry is like up, you know what I'm saying?
Well, can we talk for a second about the Celtics and the way they've been officiated against teams that the NBA, and I'm going to bring this through line back from last episode because I do want to talk about this. A lot of the officiating I've seen against teams like when the Celtics played Portland in the bubble, when I saw them over the course of the regular season when we didn't have the bubble, playing the Lakers, Clippers, Bucks, the Celtics didn't get a lot of calls going their way. Now, I don't know if it's going to be the same in the playoffs. They're using all the same referees. I've seen a lot of ticky-tack calls being made against the Celtics. Like, for instance, I'll tell you about the other day. Even in Game 4 against the 76ers, right? Daniel Tice was taken out, I believe, 5 minutes into the game because he had already received a foul. And that, to me, was Brad Stevens' way of saying, hey, listen, we're going to get a lot of calls not going our way, so let me save you for the rest of the game. Let me bring you in later on. He puts in Cantor for a little bit. After a while, Daniel Tice comes in because the second quarter was a little bit more fairly ref. I know you don't really see it, or perhaps you do see it, but you don't think it is an issue that's indicative of just the Celtics. But from what I've seen, and it could be the case that it might just be because I watch a lot of Celtics games because, as you are, I am a fan of the Celtics and I want to see them coming out of the East. There is 100%, without a doubt in my mind, a real problem with the way that the NBA, and the NBA has always been fantastic at marketing their athletes. But I think with that territory also comes the similar territory of, hey, listen, we've got the Bucks coming up. We've got Giannis, right, playing the Celtics. Who do we want to go into the playoffs? Who hasn't won a chip yet? Giannis. Okay? Hey, refs, maybe play the Celtics a little bit more tight. Maybe play the Bucks a little bit more loose. We saw that when, again, the Celtics-Bucks game. Giannis elbows Tice in the face. That should have been his sixth, I think, personal foul. He should have been sent out of the game. He wasn't. Giannis being in that game the last 2 minutes dramatically alters the outcome of that game. So that's personally what I've seen. So if we're going to talk about Celtics real quick, and I feel like we're going all over the place with this podcast, but it's fine. If we're going to talk about Celtics making a deep playoff run, that's a big concern for me. And especially against a team like Toronto, where think about how marketable a back-to-back would be for a team like Toronto. You know what I mean? Nick Nurse getting Coach of the Year. We'll talk about that again in a little bit. Toronto's a very offensively talented team. Do they get calls going their way? You know what I mean? Like, it's already going to be a competitive series if the calls are even. But that's my main concern as a sort of Celtics fan. I'm also rooting for my guys, OKC, out in the West. But I just want to get your thoughts on that. Yeah.
Well, first of all, you don't got to tell me about being a semi-Celtics fan because I'm a Knicks fan, which means I'm supposed to hate the Celtics. But you know what? I got to have someone to root for in this series, and I'm really behind the Celtics. Now, I like what you're talking about because you're right. It would be very profitable for the NBA to Raptors have a chance at a back-to-back, or seeing Giannis in the finals would obviously bring in a lot of viewership, and that is the motivation behind altering foul calls or anything. But one counter argument I will make, if I were to play devil's advocate, I also think it'd be very marketable to have a Lakers versus Celtics finals, like we were talking about a second ago. I think that'd be very valuable for them. So I think that what you're bringing up is a valid concern. However, I'd like to stick around and see it a little bit more, because I think that either way that the Eastern Conference plays out, I think the NBA is going to be making some big moolah on whatever team. I mean, look at the Heat. I mean, they still have people around the world know the Heat just from 2013. So I think that any team that comes out of the East is going to be very profitable for the NBA, and I think that there's less reason for them to rig it than maybe you're talking about. But I could see where you're making the very valid concerns. I like where you're coming from. You're using logic.
Yeah. Well, I also think that it isn't just indicative of the Celtics. Like I said, I understand what you're saying, but again, I'd have to look more into that. It's just, again, with the Celtics games I've seen. Now it could be. I mean, I'm sure. What, you got the Orlando Magic going against the Milwaukee Bucks, right, in a 7-game series. Who do people want to see? The Bucks. They don't want to see Orlando make a deep playoff run. Nobody cares about I mean, I shouldn't say that, because there are some Orlando fans that might listen to this podcast. But you guys aren't a championship team yet, not even close, in my personal opinion. And this series has shown it. Now, again, I haven't seen most of that series, so wouldn't be able to tell you how the reffing is transpired. But I do think that there is – I don't want to say it's like referees throwing games like we saw in the past with certain series. I think it was that Lakers-Kings series where there was a notable throw at some point. And I'm blanking again on what year that occurred, but it's not to that kind of severity. There's just I'd say that maybe even if the referees aren't told pregame, there might be some more favor. I want to always entertain that logic. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, the most like we're talking about, like what was it, 2004, the Nets, the New Jersey Nets versus the Lakers. That series was thrown. It was confirmed to be thrown as well.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Not the Kings. I don't know why the Kings.
But I mean, it's definitely something that, I mean, I think they learned their lesson because they got caught. I don't think the NBA is really sticking their hands around it much. I mean, they let KD go to the Warriors. That should be enough to tell you that they don't give a shit anymore. You know what I'm saying? They're just letting it all slide. So yeah, I don't know. I'm excited. This is the best playoffs we've had in a long time. I mean, I've been waiting for my guy LeBron to be back in the playoffs, and he's here and he's performing, and he's like we were talking about last year. Yeah, he's playing good basketball. Old LeBron, he's picking up those double-digit assists. I love to see that. So I think we're definitely in for a treat this year.
Yeah, no, I mean, and also the ratings on TV show it, and they reflect that. I mean, they've had some of the highest ratings in years in terms of the playoffs. Now, in past years, the common folk have spoken, and the common word was that the playoffs weren't that good, especially when you had the Cleveland Cavaliers going against the Warriors for so many years in a row, and then the rest of the games not really being entertaining, the series, not the games. Well, the games themselves as well, but a lot of the series not being entertaining by and large. I think this year's playoffs, man, even the seeding games in the bubble, just straight competitive down to the wire. I'm going to say it a million times, man. This is one of the best NBA seasons, and it's really actually a funny thing that we picked up this podcast, and with the timing and everything, like, we have so much to kind of get into, you know what I mean? But
yeah.
Just one of the best basketball seasons we've had in a while, but I hate to see it be ruined in what I find to be, and this is just true to me, and we'll get on to another topic after this, not money in hand throwing, but rather, hey, pull it aside. Hey, guys, no money's on the line here except, ratings. we want the Bucks to move through here. Don't make it too obvious. Give some calls that should have gone the Bucks way to the Celtics, so it doesn't look too crazy. I've just seen a lot of those, a lot of calls that even when they were sent to the review center in New Jersey, don't get overcalled or overturned. So it's all stuff like that. But anyways, I digress. Do we want to get into the next topic here? We have Nick Nurse winning Coach of the Year.
Yes, sir. We got to talk about that.
No. So I pre-recording wanted to compile my top 3 coaches, and I understand that you did not bring any, and I didn't tell you about the topics before we started because we don't really go into the show with a solid list. We might sometimes, but most of the time it's kind of just like us going off the dome talking. I don't know if you
bouncing ideas.
Right. I don't know if you had a solid idea in your head of 3 coaches that could have been candidates for this year. I know I could certainly pull them up right now. I'll get into mine real quick because coaching this year, I mean, if you want to talk about personnel on the floor being great, I think the coaches have been up to par with that as well. Nick Nurse, winning Coach of the Year, definitely think he deserves it just due to the fact that he came off a championship year. And in a lot of U.S. or in a lot of United States sports, we see and I'm not sure, I can't speak to like soccer or other European sports because, I don't follow soccer too closely, but I know in a lot of sports here where we're from, you come off of a playoff drought. I should say U.S. and Canada. You come off a playoff drought and you're not doing too well the next year, whatever it might be. No, Nick Nurse has, and this, part of the blame comes on, or part of the shine, I think, should be put on this Toronto Raptors team that can seemingly pull scoring out of anywhere coming off the bench in the starting 5. They lost Kawhi. It doesn't seem to have affected them at all. They haven't lost a step. They've been playing fantastically, dominated the Nets, but with every great team comes a great coach, right? And you the best example of this, I think, is when you got like a guy like Pop, right? He brought San Antonio, even though San Antonio could be considered a fringe playoff team, brought them into the playoffs 22 years in a row. Now, obviously, for some of those 22 years, we had the dynasty with Kawhi, prime Kawhi that locked up LeBron in the playoffs. But I'm talking about closer to today's day and age where, they have DeMar DeRozan, they have LaMarcus Aldridge, they have some solid guys in the lineup, but could they be considered competitive? Not necessarily. Pop gets them there. Pop is a great coach. You know what I mean? Just stuff like that. So I think with every great championship team and even a great team in its own right, even a playoff team, even a fringe playoff team, there has to be a great coach there. My personal 3 candidates, like I said, Nick Nurse, I think the number 1 spot indefinitely goes to him. You have Brad Stevens. I think he does great with that Celtics offense, integrating defense. Daniel Tice having the defensive plus minus just below Giannis, playing great. And then I got to give it to Billy Donovan from the Oklahoma City Thunder for just, surely for the fact that they had a 0.6% chance of making the playoffs this year and nobody thought they were going to do anything. And we're here now. I believe, we're keeping a competitive series with the Rockets. I mean, it's crazy. I'm repping Oklahoma, my dusty Oklahoma City shirt, but those are my personal 3. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? When I was thinking about when you first brought up the coaches, I think I would keep the same list as you. Brad Stevens, of course, is a great coach, and I love what he's done to the Celtics. But I might give it to Spoelstra with the Miami Heat.
Yeah, that's a shot.
Before I give it to Brad Stevens just this year, but obviously Nick Nurse went above and beyond with that Raptors team. I mean, he picked up the slack that Kawhi left, the hole in that team. I think Nick Nurse really filled that gap. And like what does that even say about Kawhi Leonard if he can leave a team and they're still sweeping people in the playoffs? I mean, look what happened to the Cavs when LeBron left for Lakers. I mean, they were the last seed the whole season. But that's an argument for another time, obviously. But I think you have a pretty solid list of coaches. I might go ahead and put Spoelstra there instead of Brad Stevens.
I could 100% see Spoelstra in there. I mean, that guy too. I mean, if you get a very young team to make it in the way he did, a lot of people I think forget the Heat were in the top 3 in the East at some points over the course of the season. I mean, to do that with such a young team, and they're talented, but yeah, I could definitely see an argument where you would give Spoelstra the 3rd spot, even maybe a spot over Billy Donovan. I mean, I had Billy Donovan at third and then Brad Stevens at second. I could see Miami going to, Spoelstra going into either of those slots. So 100% there could be a conversation there. But, oh, man, like just some great coaches in the league at the moment, young teams. Doesn't matter. I mean, everyone's got that piece. Everyone's got something they bring to the league. It's really overall just fantastic to see. Did we want to get into, speaking of great coaches, there's been a lot of rumors about Pop potentially going to the Nets next year, what that could mean for the Nets. Now they have KD, Kyrie coming back. They have Carl Levert. He reminds me of sort of like a Jason Tatum in the way he creates space and makes shots for himself. The Nets this year, right? Like, we thought that they were going to be a lot better than they were. Well, actually, I thought they'd be a fringe playoff team. They made it into the playoffs, so they slightly overexceeded my expectations. I don't know about you. I can't remember what you said when we were talking about them on the podcast. But, it seems like this year, again, was, I don't want to say a throwaway year because I think it gave them a lot of experience. Obviously, not having Kyrie in there for a large majority of the year. He was very injury prone. It gave them a good feeling of what their baseline is like, right? Like guys that you have to call up, especially in the bubble now, where they had to assemble that ticky-tack team from, they had to make a bunch of calls, get Mike Beasley in there, get, who am I thinking of? Jamal Crawford in there. I'm gonna use an analogy I use in life a lot. Like if you have to go down to rock bottom, the only way to go is up. They have Carl Levert. They're going to be having a lot of good guys coming back. And now they're going to have great bench and role player management. So, with Pop, again, if he goes there, and I guess the reasoning for why he would go to such a, at the moment, 8th seed, almost fringe playoff team would be the promise of coaching KD and Kyrie and winning the chip. I think that team makes noise. Do they make it in the playoffs? Sure. I don't want to give the overzealous prediction of them making the finals, but I certainly think that puts them in playoff terms.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I heard that Pop was actually thinking about retiring this year.
Yeah, I did hear that as well. That was earlier in the year, right?
I believe so, yeah. But if Pop goes to the Nets, they are a finals lock for me. If they can, I mean, I don't think they're necessarily weak at the coaching position, but having a good coach is seeing what the definition of like a good coach is how far can you go with how little,
right?
Or how much does your style impact the game? How successful is your style of coaching? And I think that Popovich would be able to do so much with the players that he's given. And obviously, we talk about KD and Kyrie having injury problems and stuff. I think that Pop is, maybe if not the only coach in the NBA right now that would be able to fill, take some, fill some of the gap that one of them would leave. Say that they were to have an injury. I think that Pop to the Nets would be. I would be excited, to be honest. I've never heard that rumor before, but I'd be super excited. Definitely.
Yeah, well, I'm going to make another analogy to football, right? When you have a quarterback and wide receiver duo, a quarterback can make a wide receiver better. A wide receiver can make a quarterback better. I think the same can be said for teams and coaches, right? Like you said, picking up the slack. If they miss, say, Kyrie for a stretch of weeks, if you have a guy like Popovich in there, you don't really need to be – well, you do still need to be obviously excellent, but I'm saying having Pop there helps a lot with the pursuit of that goal. So if you're missing, again, Kyrie for 2 weeks, Pop can step in, scheme around it, run the ball through KD, run the ball through Levert, run the ball through whoever. That type of flexibility that he offers as a coach with his prowess is I think, while I don't know if they're a lock for the finals, I definitely think that flexibility is going to do a lot for that Nets team next year, especially in the East, where, like you said, there's a couple of top dogs. You have some B-tier teams, and then the rest is just like off the bottom, off the deep end. It's going to do a lot for that team, I think, me personally.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I also think that because the Nets are, besides KD and Kyrie, they're a relatively young team.
Mm-hmm.
Popovich would probably be the perfect veteran presence on top of KD and Kyrie. I mean, you just have three great leaders at the
Right.
head of that team. And I don't think there's anything that would be better for that young core, especially because they're only getting better at this point. You know, we saw that last year. We saw that this year, making the playoffs when, you know, they had a lot of doubt. I think that this team is only going to get better. And if Popovich went to the Nets, for me personally, finals lock for the Nets. As long as KD and Kyrie can stay healthy. As long as KD and Kyrie can stay healthy.
I think that's not an outlandish take, but you know, we haven't seen also Kyrie and KD gel and mesh and the rest of the squad mesh with them. Now, again, I'll go back to what I said. It's great that they have this year to flesh out. That's why I don't think it's entirely a throwaway year, but I don't know if they're necessarily going to be a lock just because I'd like to get them in for that. You know, would they be in the mix? Sure. But when it comes to the finals, I think they could take that year and they'll still definitely be competitive. I just think that they're going to need that year as well to figure some stuff out. They'll probably get close, but I don't know if it's going to be straight to the finals for them. Do we want to talk about real quick the 76ers future? Brett Brown got fired the other day. A lot of people are saying that Tyronn Lue could go to the 76ers. Brett Brown says, upper management says that they have no intention of trading either Embiid or Simmons, and that they want to instead complement them. 76ers in a lot of cap hell at the moment. They're paying Al Horford a lot of money. They're paying Tobias Harris. He's actually the 10th highest paid athlete in the country right now. They're paying him what I believe to be an unjustified salary. They're paying Embiid a lot of money. They locked down Simmons to a large contract recently. They're going to get hit with this cap wall soon. So the future, especially now that they don't have a head coach, pretty risky and pretty unknown for these 76ers. Nigel, can I get your take first? Because I'll get into my spiel afterwards.
Yeah, of course. I think that we trusted the process, and I think we saw the ceiling. I think we saw the height. I don't think they're going to go up from here. If this is even the highest they've ever been, which I don't think it is. I think last year was. I think that personally, I believe that it's all downhill for the Sixers from here. Mm-hmm. I don't think Embiid is going to want. I mean, like you said, there's not really much of a future for them when you have all these, you have salary problems and everything. Ben Simmons either needs to become a superstar overnight, or they need to get someone else in there to fill the gaps on the 3-point line, especially. And it doesn't look like they're going to be able to get that. And I also don't see Ben Simmons, becoming a consistent 3-point shooter overnight. I don't think that's going to, that's not his biggest failure. But I don't think that he is going to be what they need to keep improving, which they do need to keep improving. So I see that, and especially they fired their coach. That's always a sign that
a build is coming.
Yeah, and they're gonna have to spend the whole next year building up chemistry with the new coach. Tyronn Lue is good, but he's not the best. And there's no real clear leaders on that team. I mean, Joel Embiid, probably the strongest leader you got over there. And I can't comment. What'd you say?
I said if he could stay in shape too.
Yeah, if he can stay in shape. I mean, I'm sure he's a fine leader, but nothing really stands out to me about him as a leader. So what I see happening to the 76ers is the Embiid's contract ends. He goes somewhere else. Same with Ben Simmons. And unfortunately, they go back into a rebuilding mode. That's just what I see. I could be wrong. They do play well. I had a lot of fun watching them the last couple of years, but I just don't see how many options they have on the table that might actually become true.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate reality for the 76ers, but the name of the game for them has been, does the money justify the means or the odds? No, not really. Not really personally to me. They don't have shooting in a league where a lot of the offense comes from behind the 3-point line, and now we're seeing more talented centers even pull 3-pointers. So it seems like an outdated system for an exorbitant amount of money, and for a team that is injury prone, where your star guy can't even stay in shape, and you're firing your head coach. Which honestly, if I'm being really 100% real with you here, Nigel. I don't think that Brett Brown was justifiably fired. I think that he was more of a straw man, for upper management, not really doing their job too well. And again, what did I start the sentence off with? It's just a lot of unneeded spending. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't have any rhyme or reason to it. And I agree with you. I think we've seen what they have to offer, and unfortunately, their ceiling is going to be exiting the playoffs. And it really can only be downhill from here. So my prayers go out to all these 76ers fans. I personally enjoyed watching them get swept by the Celtics. That's all I can really say about that, man. I know it's got to be tough, but y'all will get through it. Hopefully, management gets their shit together, and you guys can formulate. I mean, it's not like a terrible team. I don't think the Celtics are a terrible team. They've got talent, but it's just
76ers.
What did I say?
You said Celtics.
Oh, excuse me, the 76ers. The 76ers have a talented team. They just can't they can't score the ball from behind the three. I mean, it's really not it's not at all a cohesive system, and a system that works in this type of league. I could see the 76ers honestly being a lot more successful when maybe MJ was around and there was a lot more physicality. Even then, though, I don't know. So that's my whole spiel on the 76ers.
Yeah, I agree. I also like your point that firing Brett Brown was probably just to show as a scapegoat for the higher ups management. It's a shame. He was a good coach. I don't think he's a bad coach. I think he's going to find work after this. Yeah. Definitely. I think he definitely has a career in the NBA. But it's like, what are you going to do when you're the only thing, the only options you have is kick out, drive.
Yeah.
There is no real, you don't have a guy who can just start lighting it up. You need to space the floor to give Embiid, the time, a little bit of room to work with. Same with Simmons. And, it's just like the people who they signed who thought were going to make a big impact, not performing as well as they thought or as well as they're being paid. Jimmy Butler staying on that team would have done something special for them.
Yeah.
I think Jimmy Butler definitely would have been able to pull them along just with the sheer locker room presence, leadership. If you're not even talking about what he's going to put up on the board. However, they lost him, unfortunately. And like you said, what are they going to – no team is going to want to trade for a bunch of their players because they're so overpaid, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, what are your options at this point? Is you got to just almost start over. I mean, I don't see where else you're going to go.
Got to blow up the core. I 100% agree here. All right. Yeah. Since we're getting to the sort of the end of the show, we have Luka. We can talk about the Mavericks Clippers game or the series, I should say, because the series has been pretty close. And then we can talk about the draft lottery, playoff Paul George if we want. And and then we could probably maybe we'll end off the show because I did some calls in the studio the other day to a Celtics fan, a Knicks fan, and an overall just NBA fan. So we might end off the show with those, but we'll see what happens. Nonetheless, right now, do we want to talk about that Luka game winner the other day over Reggie Jackson?
I gotta talk about Luka.
All right, go ahead.
I gotta put it out on the table, man. I love Luka. I have Luka fever. I said this last year. Every time I see him play, he creeps up further and further into my top 10. And you know what? If he's not my favorite player, he almost is. You know what I'm saying? I love watching him play. It's so exciting. He has the cojones of an elephant and he has the touch of a gazelle. I love it. I'm all for it. I wish he was on the Knicks.
Yeah.
He came out and they thought that we remember all the predictions we had. Especially us, everybody. The Clippers and the Lakers are gonna come strong and motorboat their way up. But the Mavericks are coming out and they're giving them a real run for their money. And Luka is playing with the big boys, something he's never done before. He's keeping up with them. He's keeping up with them. Okay, you're talking about the two best guys on the Mavericks are Porzingis and Luka. Both have zero playoff experience, going up against Kawhi Leonard, who's a 3-time Finals MVP, and Paul George, who also has a good amount of playoff experience. And they're dragging them across the floor. I mean, they don't have an answer for them. The Clippers pulled off 2 games. One of those games, a lot of people would say they didn't deserve. Either way, the series tied at 2. Right. The series tied at 2-2. It has no business being tied at 2-2. But I am rooting for the Mavericks. I don't want to see the Clippers come out of this. I am praying to the basketball gods. And Porzingis is out tonight. There's a game tonight or tomorrow, right?
Let me check here real quick.
I think Porzingis is out with like a sore groin or whatever. Yeah. So Luka's really going to have to pick up the slack. Either way, I'm excited to see what the kid does. He's one in a million. I've never seen anything like it.
You put it better than I ever could have. I mean, his first playoff series doing monumental things. I just want to focus on game 4 for a second, right? When he capped off his, I believe it was a 43-point triple-double with a double I think it must have been a double rhythm dribble to a step back from deep over Reggie Jackson. Like, I don't know who thinks of this type of stuff. But one thing that's clear to me, like you said, Luka, shown out for the white guys, right? You know, he's the one putting people on SportsCenter now, right? Like, there's no other way to put it, man. The kid's dropping buckets. He's doing great. I mean, I almost can't believe that it's his first playoff series. It almost seems like, and it's been a big theme for Luka in the NBA, is that he's a rookie, but he's been playing like a veteran, you know? And I don't know if it's indicative of Luka, and I know he put in a lot of work on the offseason. You know, he worked on his body, worked on his game. He's become even more lethal. I think we can see that, taking down a 3-headed tyrant like the Clippers. But that might also be indicative of the EuroLeague where he came from. You know what I mean? They produce some really talented players. But, you know, I wanted to give that little shout out to the EuroLeague just to know that we over here at Spreading the Floor, we understand, we recognize the EuroLeague, and we all know that you're a pretty solid league, not like the NBL. But nonetheless, you know, Luka playing out of his mind. Like you said, I think he lies in my top 10, at least favorite players. I don't know about best players. I'd have to give that a lot more thought. I think there's definitely an argument there that he could be put in that conversation for sure. Just a really, really, really talented guy. And, you know, the scariest thing is, Nigel, I don't know if we've seen his ceiling yet, which really, really scares me. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It really scares me.
I see MVPs coming the man's way. I do in his future, 100%. Yeah. And you know what it is about Luka's game is just that I think Mark Cuban is a perfect host for the European players that want to come play in the NBA. Yeah. I think that's hilarious that all the European players go to the Mavericks. I like that, though. I like that for the Mavericks. That's kind of their thing, and I respect it because it's been working.
Yeah, it's their identity.
Think about Luka. Right. And like you said, like, shout out to the EuroLeague. I mean, you just see so much finesse in Luka's game. And, you know, he's not the most athletic. He's not, you know, you never, like, you look at a guy like John Morant, comes down off a monster slam, lands off balance on one foot. Every time the man lands, I'm biting my fingernails thinking he's going to break, you know, snap his leg. Luka, everything he did. I mean, I'm never scared about the kid. And, you know, I'll knock on wood. It's just I see a very calm, poised game. Like you said, he plays like a veteran. He goes out there. He's not nervous. It looks like he's in his element. And you know what? It looks like he's having fun. And I think that's the sign of a great basketball player. I mean, go back and watch Kobe, MJ, LeBron. They're all having fun. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they're taking it serious, but they're having fun doing it. They're not, you know, you could see the way that they're poised across the court. Right. And Luka's out there. He's having a good time. Him, Boban Bogdanovic, Porzingis. I mean, they're all just out there.
Steph Curry.
They're hooping up. Right. They're all out there hooping up. I'm so happy for Mavericks fans. Like, seriously, I wish it was me.
Yeah. Well, I think it's cool what you said. Like, the Mavericks, the EuroLeague All-Stars or whatever they're called. I think that's what a lot of NBA fans call them. Yeah, man. And you know, we were talking about Luka here, and Luka deserves a lot of praise. But like you said, let's not skip over the Porzingises, the Seth Currys, the Boban Marjanovics. The guy 7'3" has amazing offensive prowess, footwork. I mean, just an overall, just a great dude too. I mean, I don't know if you've seen any of Boban's interviews; they're hilarious. I'd probably buy
Yeah.
a Boban jersey if I already wasn't going to buy a Luka jersey or something like that. Just an overall great team to watch. And yeah, I mean, there's not much more I can say. I guess I'll give my prediction. I think this Luka game winner is and has, and I don't know if did you watch the end of that game?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you see the Clippers players walking to the tunnel?
Yes.
They looked extremely deflated. Now, we talked about this way earlier at the beginning of the hour in the show. This kind of shift of momentum that I think occurred last night when Luka hit that game winner in Reggie Jackson's face. Think about the Clippers, right? They pride themselves on being a defensively sound team. Obviously, that Pat Beverly's out, so they have that defensive piece not missing from their squad. But still, you have Paul George not playing to the best of his ability already. That's going to affect his confidence. You have Kawhi playing, trying to carry to no avail. Then you have a guy like Luka comes along, first playoff series. Hey, excuse me, step back in your face, wet.
Yeah.
There's not going to, this shift of momentum is 100% the Mavericks way, and I think the Mavericks finish off the series dominantly. And I'm going to say that with my chest. I do believe that to be true. I don't think the Clippers get another game. But boom.
Wow, you're crazy. I think that if they can keep Paul George at bay like they've been doing a great job doing recently, I see Mavericks coming out of this series. And I never thought I'd say that. I thought the Clippers were going to mop the floor with them, but Kawhi is not, as great as Kawhi is, and I will never deny his greatness, he is not one to, fill up the stat sheet. He's not going to do it. He's not going to come out and drop 45 on a nightly basis. Luka might. Yep. Luka very well might, come out and fill up the stat sheet every night. So Porzingis being out tonight, and of course recording this on a Tuesday. Porzingis being out tonight, obviously not going to go in their favor. I wouldn't be surprised if the Clippers pulled off this game. But if they can keep Paul George where he is, and with the like you said, with the demoralization, I mean that was demoralizing. I think them giving up one game to the Mavericks would be demoralizing. But I mean, a 21-year-old hitting a game winner on a step back three. I mean, they were down by 1 point. No one told Luka to go for the three. He stepped back 5 feet behind the 3-point line and shot that like it was a free throw. Yeah, and it went in. Oh my gosh. So, like you said, I think that the momentum is 100% Mavericks' favor. However, I do see this series going to a game 7.
Yeah, I mean, I have to have that incredibly bold take for every episode of the show. That's something we talked about. So that's going to be my bold take.
Yeah.
I'll play in devil's advocate. I do think that it's going to be a competitive series the rest of the series, but just for fun's sake, I'm gonna say that what if, you know what I mean? You remember that meme, what if we kissed that Area 51 raid? Hey, what if the Mavericks pull out these next 2 games? You know what I mean? What if?
Yeah.
What if they don't need Porzingis? What if Luka goes insanely wild? Now, I like what you said about his ceiling too, 40 and 50-point games. I don't think he's at that point yet where he's going to be able to consistently hit that on a nightly basis, but it's coming up soon. It's 100% coming up soon, whether it be next season and he works on his game more in the offseason, or maybe we see a little microcosm in this playoff series. Who knows? But nothing but the best for Luka in the future, man. Such a fun guy to watch, very modest guy. Also, like you said, playing the game like it is just a game, but the other thing I like about Luka, and I do draw comparisons to Michael Jordan, but hold on, everyone's in the. I know for a fact everyone listens to this in their car, and I was like, what do you mean, Cooperman? I don't know if you've ever seen Luka lose a game. He's ripped his jersey open. He throws stuff. The kid's competitive. He likes the game, but he likes winning the game more. So I really just overall, man, Luka. Generational talent, the face of the future for the NBA, along with John Morant, Zion, all these guys. And I do also think that that Mitchell Robinson will, at some point, bring up the rear for the face of the NBA. That's for you as a Knicks fan, Nigel. So we can get into, with the last bit of the show, we can get into the draft lottery, and then also too, okay. Should we talk about this live on air? I just got a Sports Center notification on my phone that says the Toronto Raptors considering boycotting playoffs following the Jacob Blake shooting. Obviously, for anyone that's not familiar, a horrific shooting. The man was trying to break up a fight between two women, got into his car, and was fatally shot 7 times in the back. Shouldn't happen to anyone. It's a vicious cycle. I don't even know why we have to be sitting here talking about this, especially considering that we already went through the George Floyd shooting. Riots occurred, and now we see everything kind of shutting down again, and the same thing happens. So very disheartening, but a lot of players have kind of spoken their piece, and now it seems like coming out of the Toronto Raptors camp, they're considering possibly boycotting the playoffs. But let's save that for the end of the show. We can save that for the last bit. I did, and it seems silly now that we're talking about the draft lottery in comparison, but I don't know if you saw the draft lottery. I don't know if you saw the picks. We can talk about, I know I said the first top 5 at the beginning of the show. Let's just kind of cover the top 3 real quick, because I want to get on to the potential boycotting of the season. Your thoughts on the shooting. The draft lottery, man. I mean, for anyone that doesn't know, Minnesota got the first pick, Golden State got the second pick, and Charlotte got the third pick. The first 3 prospects in the NBA draft are LaMelo Ball, in no particular order, Anthony Edwards, and James Wiseman, it seems. So, Nigel, I want to get your top 3 or your projected picks for each of those teams, why you think they should take them, all that good stuff. I already formulated mine, but I want to hear your spiel first.
You know what? We got to look at what we're working with here. Minnesota has a number 1 pick. I don't know how they pulled that off, some act of God, but they got it. I mean, Minnesota just refuses to hit the bottom of the barrel. I mean, they refuse to go below. You know what I'm saying? They always got to kind of be there and they talk and the contention. And I think that they would be stupid to not pick up LaMelo Ball. I think he's by far the most experienced person in this draft. I think he's a clear number 1 pick. And I was banging my head on the floor when the Knicks got the 8th spot. I was hoping that we get 1 or at least 3, at least 1 through 3. But you know, as Knicks fans, we're used to being disappointed at every corner. So
right.
Happy for Minnesota, and I'm not sure which team would really benefit from LaMelo the most. I mean, Golden State doesn't really need him. Charlotte could use some LaMelo in their life, but I think Minnesota would be a fool not to take LaMelo. I mean, you don't got to play him as point guard. But put him as like a 2 or 3. He's tall enough, Keep D'Angelo Russell where he is.
Right.
I think that it'd be absolutely foolish not to take this kid because he's going to be better than his brother. I think he might already be better than his brother. And I think that he just keeps proving time and time again that he is a generational talent. I mean, look at the clips from when he was in middle school. He points at the half-court line and shoots it. Goes in, you know what I'm saying? When the kid got balls, and like we were talking about Luka Doncic, Donovan Mitchell. I mean, it just seems like in today's NBA, you just gotta have the nuts to do it. I mean, in all the entire history of the NBA, obviously that's the case. But I mean, it looks like today you got a lot of people who really want it, who's hungry, and I think he's one of them.
Yeah, man. I agree. I think if they can get LaMelo Ball, because like you said, he's just a bigger point guard, basically. He's an oversized point guard. You can put him at the 2-3. You already have D'Lo there. You don't need a center. You have Cat. He got a little bit hot. He got Western Conference Player of the Month before they went on that kind of that losing streak. If you could put him in there, that'd be great for the team. However, I do want to also mention that it wasn't maybe this time last year, but the last time that we talked, the trade deadline episode where we kind of talked about each team's trade deadline picks and how we felt about them. I was very vocal with the fact that I thought that Minnesota did a really, really good job at the trade deadline, locking in some big key components for their squad and getting a lot of mobility with the way upper management could, just move and get the team more assets. And then we saw Minnesota, they got hot for a little bit. and then completely fell off the map. So for me, right, if you're Minnesota, and what you said earlier really caught my attention, because it's like, yeah, Minnesota could be at the bottom and they could be considered out of the conversation. But at the same time, they're always in the mix, kind of like making moves, and the moves never seem to pan out. And I think what that really comes down to is the fact that this organization, like we've talked about on this, I feel like I've said on this podcast, like we've talked about a billion times this episode, because we're just the best at what we do. But we saw this coming, man. Nigel, these guys don't do well when they acquire assets. And it's due to that complacent energy around the team. I mean, that's to me what it personally comes down to. Does it matter if they get LaMelo? Sure, yeah, he's a great player. But what are they really going to do with LaMelo? You know, how are they going to utilize him? Is it going to be like another thing where this year they kind of fell out of the – and I get that it's in the Western Conference, and the Western Conference is very competitive. I get that. I understand that. But still, for me, I'd rather see Charlotte get LaMelo just so – and Charlotte, you know what? Charlotte, I know they have a few flagship players. Charlotte could use literally anyone right now to build around. They could literally use – they could use like – I don't know. They could use Reggie Jackson to build around. That's another bold take. But the thing is, you know, I feel like I said, LaMelo would be a better fit in Charlotte than he would be in Minnesota, and that's because I feel like Minnesota would just waste his prime. And it's sad to say that I'd rather have a guy like LaMelo go to such an obscure team like the Charlotte Hornets over the Minnesota Timberwolves, but it's just the truth, man. It's just the truth. And I certainly don't want to see him go to Golden State, who has a second pick. I'd much rather see Golden State take Wiseman and have some depth at center because, you know, obviously Golden State this year, kind of showed me that they need a lot more depth in that area. They're going to be a super team regardless. So, you know, if James Wiseman, I'm just saying, I want to see him go there because I think it would be the best fit. I'm talking now as an analyst or like a podcaster. But in reality, they're already going to have a super team. Draymond Green, I think either way, right? If you fit James Wiseman into that system, he could be a great backup to Draymond Green. Or if Draymond Green starts to kind of fall off, then you slot James Wiseman in there. And then you already have Steph back. You already have Clay back. You have Andrew Wiggins. You know, you're going to have a good team regardless. And like I said about Minnesota, they could take Anthony Edwards. Doesn't matter who they really get. And they don't need James Wiseman because they got Cat at center. Again, it just doesn't really matter. It doesn't for Minnesota. That's for me personally.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, maybe if he went to Minnesota, he'd be able to light some fire, maybe bring some competitiveness back to the team. I think they definitely have a morale problem over there, and it's been evident for a couple of years. You know, also you can't count out. I mean, say he doesn't go top 3, which would be a shocker. Yeah. Maybe the Bulls trade up. Maybe he goes to the Bulls. I think he'd fit in perfectly on the Bulls. I think him, Jacoby White is his name.
Yep.
That'd be Zach LaVine. Yeah, Zach LaVine. I mean, that would be a crazy nice team. I'd be very excited to watch them. Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah. Obviously the Knicks, I think he'd fit in perfect on the Knicks, but their draft pick is too low. Unless they trade their draft pick and give up like a young talent, maybe they could fit and they could trade it with Golden State or something, but I don't see him going to the Knicks, unfortunately. So I like where you're going. Maybe Charlotte, he'd be able to put some fuel on the fire. Yeah. Or I think he'd fit in perfectly on Chicago.
At least, like I said, at least if he goes to Charlotte, they have some hope for the future and a guy that they can build around, a guy, if he pans out at the next level, that can be great for them. Can be maybe the next manifestation of Kemba Walker, like Kemba Walker was playing when he was in Charlotte. That's all I'm saying. But for me, I'd rather see a team like the Charlotte Hornets get their just dues than the Minnesota Timberwolves, which I have a strong indication that they would just waste that talent anyways. You know? All right. Yeah. Last topic of the show, guys. We've been going for about an hour now. Yeah, we're at the 57-minute mark. So if you guys were just listening, which I'm sure if you made it this far, you've been listening for the entire time, the Toronto Raptors, in the wake of the Jacob Blake shooting, have been in talks. Now, it's not a definite thing, but they've been kind of talking within the locker room, within who's in the bubble at the moment. I'd assume Nick Nurse is part of those conversations if he's the coach of the year and he's an integral part of that team. There's been talk amongst the locker room of them potentially boycotting the season over the Jacob Blake shootings. Now, the validity, and I'm trying to figure out what to say here, not only because it is definitely a sensitive topic and just came out of nowhere and I had no time to formulate a reaction. So I ask you all to bear with me. Is boycotting the best answer in this situation? Now, these guys came here, and there was always questions about guys coming here in the wake of the George Floyd shootings, right? Are they going to be able to do the most or do the best that they possibly can to help out the Black community in America who are being, I mean, regardless of what your stance is in politics or whatever it is, we can all definitely get around the fact that a lot of African Americans have been unjustly gunned down in the streets, have been murdered, have been beat up, at the riots, I shouldn't say riots because riots, protests, whatever you might want to call them, they've been unjustly punished. There is this is now going to me, in my personal opinion, there is systemic racism that remains and is still at large in America. I think we're seeing a lot more of that with the movement, not to get too political, but there were a lot of questions coming into the season with, hey, if these guys are all in a bubble, how convenient that they're bubbled, they're all brought together. How are they really going to be able to help the movement? Because we saw a lot of Black athletes going out to protests. Russell Westbrook went out to a protest with, I think it was Paul George, stuff like that. A lot of NBA guys, a lot of NFL guys showing their support. Now, they can do what they can do from the bubble. They can have interviews. Chris Paul, after a close victory against the Rockets the other night, when asked what attributed the victory, he said, the victory's great, but listen, we want representation for Jacob Blake and others that have been wrongfully murdered by police. And I thought that was very touching. I already had a great deal of respect for a guy like Chris Paul. I think he's a true leader, and this showed in this interview. But is stuff like that, and I guess this is the question I'm going to pose to you, Nigel, is stuff like that to you enough? Would someone boycotting the league be enough to, in the grand scheme of things, shake up whatever systemic oppression is going on in this country? My personal opinion, it would be it wouldn't be enough per se, right? But it would be a step in the right direction. Would I rather see them play out the season, win a chip, dedicated to him? Yes. Do I also understand that there are certain resources, there is time that cannot be allocated to the movement when they are in the bubble? Yes. So I want to get your take real quick, and I'll kind of come back to mine in a second because I want to give it a little bit more thought.
Sure. I think that the NBA has done a really good job this season offering the players a voice. They let them put the stuff on the back of the jerseys. They let them kneel during the national anthem. All stuff that players think contributes to them having a voice, right? So now, if they obviously, it seems like that they're thinking of boycotting because they don't think that it's enough. They don't think that what the NBA has given them would be enough to get their point across. And I am in no way a rich, someone with enough power or voice, and in that position, to really try to make a difference. So I can't say that it'd be a wrong move or a bad move or a good move. I don't know. I can't say that, but I feel like as someone, with as much power as an NBA player has, especially one of the superstars, I think that if they feel like it's not enough and they feel like they need to do more, then that's something that we have to listen to. Because you know what? It is a shame that this shooting happened, obviously, but it's a shame that it came after so much. So much has happened. I mean, just so much has happened this summer that I feel like I want NBA basketball. I wouldn't like it if they boycott me, but you know what? I gotta sit here and understand it.
Yeah.
and I gotta support anyone who is trying to go out there and make a difference, whether I agree with it or not.
Yeah.
And you know me personally, I don't really get into politics all that often, but I do think that it is important that everyone, regardless of profession or race or how tall you are, everyone needs a voice. Doesn't matter what your profession is.
Yeah, and I'm actually getting more reports now that it's more of a definite thing, and that the Toronto Raptors are. It says here more likely now to kind of boycott the playoffs, and that other teams might follow suit if they do so, and then that could subsequently end the playoffs. And I agree with what you said, Nigel. The buck has to stop somewhere. I think a lot of positive progress was made over the course of the summer with the protests, with exposing a lot of the stuff that goes on that is unjust, unfair in America and in the American infrastructure. And then that's not to say that I'm somehow detesting America, because I know that seems to be a lot of the the people when you kind of like start to criticize, some people might seem to think that you don't love the country you live in. I love the United States of America, but to sit here, and this is something I've always said, to sit here and think that just because you love something doesn't mean you can't critique it or just because to sit here and assert that if you love something you can't critique it is by definition a non-growth mindset and a very dangerous mindset to have. So I think, right, like you said, if the playoffs need to stop, we wouldn't really have a podcast. We as NBA fans wouldn't be happy, but at the end of the day, if it's for the better good, it's for the better good. And a lot of these guys are pissed off. I'm not going to speak personally I just know from certain interviews that they're not really happy with the way things have transpired. And I'm sure a lot of tension there with them playing basketball for other people's amusement while this is going on, and they feel like they're kind of being caged in. I can 100% understand that. So if this is the way the league goes, we'll see what happens. We'll probably give you guys an update on the next podcast. That would be wild. That would be wild, but it might spur along some positive change. So I'm in agreement with you, Nigel. I think it's a necessary step if it were to be taken. If not, I'm sure there are other ways as well that they could implement that message, especially with a great team like they are, a team with a lot of eyes on them. The possibilities are endless. So I'm really, while I'd be sad, I'm really, I gotta say, I can't not support a team standing up for. That's a lot of respect from my end for a team like that to stand up for what they believe in like that, and to be able to risk it all. Like I said, offensively great team, considered to probably be one of the two teams coming out of the East this year. To just give it all up like that is something that I have to respect for the greater good. So
yeah, I agree.
I guess with that, we can end off the podcast here. I might throw at the end, I might give you guys a little treat. I might throw to some calls I did in the studio yesterday to a Celtics fan, like I said, a Knicks fan, and just some other people I decided to call up. And but I guess until the next one, guys, we've been doing this for about an hour now. I've been your host, Jacob Koopman. Again, if you want the sponsorship code, the code is STFNBA, all caps, for 20% off. And the website is https://shop.ballinthesix.com/discount/STFNBA. Guys, go get your quality clothing. Go get whatever you want. It's all good stuff. They have masks, hats, whatever you need. We'll be wearing some stuff whenever they send us some free stuff. So big shout out to them, and yeah, like I said, support the podcast. We can get better equipment, and it's a win-win. It really is. Thank you again to Joshua Dakota for making the intro beat. He killed that, and until next time, guys, we'll see you, and we'll be in person next time. We'll definitely be in person.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All righty, guys. Bye.